to her presentation. Before I want to share my material. Okay, it's right now. Yeah, we all know that confirmed cases in Indonesia are dynamic, still dynamic, and the data shows on 26 October 2020 that confirmed cases about 361,067 cases till to 26 on October. I think everybody can see the website of COVID-19 in Ministry of Health. The COVID-19 pandemic is such a big problem to our country, Indonesia, but on the other hand, the COVID-19 pandemic brings a positive to the Indonesian people because all components of the nation understand that health must be included in the development mainstream because the impact of health problems will affect all aspects of life. The existence of pandemic has made the community more aware and willing to carry out efforts to improve health, prevent and avoid disease, and to recultivate the spirit to togetherness and mutual cooperation. Health programs so far have received less attention, include promotive and prevention efforts such as healthy behavior or PHBS, healthy living community movement or GERMAS, occupational health and safety or Key3, and physical activities. It has become a new habit for the community, such as washing hands with soap, wearing masks, maintaining distance, returning home immediately, and so as not to catch COVID-19. The presidents, our presidents give three directions to respond to COVID-19 outbreaks are decrease new cases, increasing healing rate, and decrease death rate in community and in health facilities. Policy efforts in the response to COVID-19, the targets are in community and health facilities, the community through health protocols for communities in public places in the context of prevention and control of COVID-19. There are efforts to break the chains of transmission by means of preventive and education promotion. The first, using masks, washing hands with soap, and physical distancing. And two, healthy behavior. And the three, consumption of nutritious food or to increases immunity. Government has been released regulation to protocols, guidelines, and media to guide activity in pandemic area. The regulation, protocols, and guidelines should be implemented to all people and organizations. Regulation from Ministry of Health, such as Ministry of Health Decree number 382, 22 about health protocols for society in public area. And the second, Ministry of Health Decree number 413 about prevention and control guideline for COVID-19. Protocol as the one self-isolation protocols, the second, protocols on health, public communication, public transportation, education, borders, work office, public area like mosque, restaurant, hotel, market, mass gathering, station, and the airport. And the third, protocols on essential service, such as HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and immunization. And how about a strategy of health promotion? Recognizing the complexity of behavior it is necessary to implement a health promotion strategy consisting of the first advocacy, the second partnership, and the third community empowerment, which is supported by methods and media in an effort to achieve changes in community behavior. Public health program is aimed to change people behavior so that they want to behave healthy in various settings, especially in preventing and overcoming the health problem. Educational institution as one of arrangement for health promotion intervention, in addition to other settings like household, workplace, health facilities, and public places, play an important role in being able to provide information and equip students with the knowledge and skills needed to prepare them when working in society. And to reach a wider audience, information has been made and disseminated through print and electronic media in the form of public services advertisement that are broadcast in various media such as television, social media, outdoor media, and other media. How about promotive and preventive efforts to pandemic COVID-19? Such as the first, disseminating of health information and educating community about COVID-19 through public service advertisement, posters, guidelines for implementing public health during a pandemic. And the second, disinfecting and installing of hand washing machine with soap in public places through partnership with professional organization, companies, and the private sector. And the third, preventing and controlling the spread of COVID-19 in community groups by conducting webinars, virtual gymnastic competition, poster, and campaigns. And the fourth, Healthy Living Communities Movement, or GERMAS, is a presidential instruction number 1 of 2019. The efforts to sustainability of community health services are the first, compile and socialize policies and guidelines for public health services during the COVID-19 pandemic for program managers and health workers in provinces or districts and cities and healthcare facilities. And the second, mapping and determining health facilities capable of providing public health services during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the third, optimizing the use of information and communication technology. And the fourth, together with the health office, ensure the public health services at each level are implemented by implementing health protocols. And five, strengthening cross-program sector collaboration, implementing health protocols are like academies, professional organization, NGOs, development partners, and etc. The policy to respond to COVID-19 outbreaks in health facilities are one, SISRUTE, organizing the COVID-19 COVID referral system to all records by data. And the second, COVID-19 management protocols guidelines, the fifth edition to socializing of COVID-19 management protocols guidelines. And the third is the Ministry of Health decree concerning health protocols in health facilities in the context of prevention and control of COVID-19. And the fourth is Director General Yankes decree concerning improving COVID services in hospital. How about referral health services policy in handling COVID-19? I think these two efforts to improve quality and access to hospital services in the pandemic time of COVID is consisting of strengthening the COVID-19 referral hospital and PPI implementation and patient safety, and the financing, utilization of health technology, and program synergy across sectors of facility health services. And primary health center, I think during the pandemic and new normal era, they have community health services and personal health services, and so that the program targets and activities can be achieved and other health services can still be carried out, and there is no increase of transmission and spread of COVID-19. FKTPs must adapt services by uh, community health and personal health. There are COVID-19 referral hospital. There are 132 reference hospital by Ministry of Health decrease, and 623 reference hospital by Governor decrease, and a total is 755 COVID-19 referral hospital, and the total bed is 166,832. There is providing telemedicine services, the future to challenge of telemedicine services, the consultant services between patient and healthcare facilities, doctors according to medical practice standards, like physical restriction on consultation on the COVID pandemic 19, and telemedicine services financing, and improve data network infrastructure to connectivity internet is better. And the conclusion are the first, accumulated cases of COVID-19 continue to increase as there are still some people who have not implemented health protocols. And the second, the pandemic period forces the entire community to adopt a new life order by always washing hands, wearing masks, and keeping a distance or avoiding crowds. This condition provides an opportunity for people to live a healthy life. And the third, preventive and promotive efforts continue to be applied to all levels of society through various activities like community empowerment, GERMAS, and with community leaders. And the fourth, curative and rehabilitative efforts are carried out by adapting services at first level and referral healthcare facilities, including through telemedicine services, which can be applied as health facilities. I think it is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Imran, for your presentations. It's very insight. We already know that the health center become very strong right now nowadays because this pandemic, so many to do. Okay. Is there any questions from the participants? Maybe I will ask you first because we're still waiting. Okay, you said that in your presentation there is a community empowerment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I would ask you about is there an evaluation about the community empowerment?
Yeah. I think we have together working together with Satgas, and another ministry, not like Ministry of Health. There's a Ministry of BUMN, Ministry of Transportation, and also, and to empowerment of community. I think we have all cadre in health center, yeah, cadre in primary health center, and the community, not only health, but in the another profession, another profession like maybe Pak RT, Kepala Desa, yeah, they have cadre not only health. And till now, I think, yeah, there are still dynamics how to support of to preventive of COVID-19. Yeah, I think so far is they very support to preventive and challenge of COVID-19. I think it's all.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Imran. Okay, participants, this is very interesting presentation from Dr. Imran, and we are in the same field about health sciences. Is there any questions? Okay, how about the waste management, Dr. Imran? I see from your biodata you are Director of Environmental Health, because I also from the environmental health, Doctor.
Oh yeah, I think
Yes.
waste management is very interesting in the COVID era.
Yes.
We must to management, waste management is to be standard for all, not only hospital but primary health center, clinics, and private profession of health. We have to guidelines of how to waste management of standard in era pandemic COVID. For to water waste and solid waste and another, and include the mass of in the community.
Yes.
But it's very interesting because before we have many health center, many hospital, not yet to have standard to management of waste. Yes, but slow, and it sure we must be to make better. Yeah.
So the procedure still built about waste management.
With the Ministry of Environment. And Forestry. We have to make Ministry of Health decree number 18 2020 is the guidelines of waste management in local basis. Local basis, not all for in Indonesia is the very
high standard
but basic local basic minimal of province basis, or maybe district and city of by basis. We have to conquest in the waste management in one area, not for all in Indonesia.
Okay, Dr. Imran, there is a question from Fahrezi. Thank you for the insightful presentation. The question is based on the presentation. I think that the Ministry of Health is focusing on the health promotion sector, but what kind of surveillance system that the Health Ministry have to watch the spread of COVID epidemic in Indonesia? I mean, maybe he asking about the surveillance system about the COVID.
Okay, thank you for the question. We have to policy or protocol, 3M and 3T. 3M wearing mask and for this physical distance and washing with soap. And 3T is the testing, tracing, and treatment. Minimal of there is we have data how much many testing in the people in Indonesia. If confirmed or not reactive, and after that we have to tracing of the people of near from them. We have data. The first slide, my slide about the confirmed, the suspect, and the negative in referral in hospital. We have surveillance of that. From the primary health center with the cadre, with the in home. We have isolation in home. We have data from primary health center.
Health center.
Health center, yeah, puskesmas like that, to the hospital, referral hospital. We have data, all data in all records in surveillance in Ministry of Health. Only one data. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And the next one is from Bu Febri. How is Indonesian health information system national capacity? Can hospital and health center share COVID-19 new case to each other?
Yeah, because it's in the badan PPSDM, badan badan pelatihan, ya, to training cadre, not national cadre, to training to in primary health center and to hospital too, to step by step, I think, and we have cadre, sukarelawan, what is in English?
Volunteer.
Volunteers.
Yes.
Volunteers, all of profession, not only sanitarian, but the doctor, is the nurse, is the another profession. But we have to volunteers to have to training before they to work in the health center, primary health center or hospital. There's a data where they in the data in the badan PPSDM. That they have data how many and how much they have training to another profession.
Yeah. Okay, so from the health center direct to the center, to the hospital referral, and then from the hospital referral to the center, Ministry of Health.
Yeah, Ministry of
or
Health.
Satgas.
Spread to all Indonesia. Like in Wisma Atlet in Kemayoran, we have the volunteers of another profession from another country, from another province.
Province.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next one is from Nadia, doctor. COVID cases are still increasing exponentially. Are the policies being implemented by government already efficient? Seeing that DKI Jakarta itself has been retracting and republishing the PSBB policy. What more needs to be done to accompany PSBB?
Yeah, after we have meeting all of ministry on Satgas, till now not increasing exponentially, but to decreasing. Include in the Jakarta, DKI Jakarta, to decreasing. I hope the community and other people to discipline to make mask and physical distance and hand washing, and we must to testing if we avoid from another confirm and tracing and the treatment. I think we must to discipline to make a guideline test, and we hope in all province and all district to decrease, not increasing. If we must do 3M and 3T, yeah.
Okay, maybe it should be a research conducted about the efficient or not implemented policy, and maybe regarding that, Pak Yardi.
I think in the university and our professional in professional academics, I think, to make the research by surveillance of data. But the Satgas, they have Profiku, Profiku is very, they have data.
Very strict?
Yeah, very strict for all Indonesia. Yeah.
Okay, is there support for the academician researcher to find COVID-19 medicine, Doctor?
Yeah. Pardon?
Is there any support from the Ministry of Health to academician or researcher to find COVID-19 medicine?
Yeah, we have several academicians from university, from another, I think not only in Jakarta, maybe in Jogja and Surabaya and Bandung. They have to support about research, not only vaccine, but I think
But
all the diseases are about the entry of the virus and another include the behavior too. Yeah, behavior. I think is very, very important to prevent the diseases. Yeah, many
okay,
university can support it.
but how about the fund, Doctor? Is there any fund from Ministry of Health to conduct to share to researcher or to academician?
I think from the Badan Litbanks, Badan Litbangkes, I don't know, but fund to researcher from the university. I think there are not only Ministry of Health, but in the Ministry of Bapanas or BPPT,
Okay.
BPPT support that about researches. I have research about not only COVID, but how to, we have 5 pillars of STBM, sanitation
Okay.
leads of totally sanitation community,
Community based. Okay.
community based. Yeah, we have the research. Not much university, but maybe 2 or 3 university. We have to support that.
Okay, maybe thank you for the last question from Raihana, Ibu Raihana. She asked about what are the strategies to maximize 3M and 3T being known and to be adopted to Indonesian people. Probably the community already known, but the implementing is still low.
Yes, I think it's not can stop to promotion about 3M and 3T, not only in community, but too in the health sector too, in many people, not only in Jakarta, but on of country in Indonesia, and not only in television, but social media and another media and methodology of promotion about 3M or 3T. It must be to I help myself and you help yourself too. Yeah, to 3M and 3T too. It's very interesting to sure make yourself to get the 3M or T3. Yeah, it kind of stop before you're sure the pandemic COVID is the null in Indonesia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Imran, for the answering. There are so many questions actually, but we're running out of time. Thank you for your valuable time and your presentation. We would like to see you again in another event in the Faculty of Health Sciences, and I hope your presentation will be valuable, will be benefit for all the participants here. Thank you, Dr.
Ms.
Imran.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Okay, thank you. And for the next speaker is Professor Kenji Sugibayashi. Is he here? Professor Kenji Sugibayashi? Okay.
Okay, hello.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
How are you today, Professor?
Oh, very good, very good. So
Okay.
it is already the 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
It's 9:05 o'clock. It's earlier. I'm sorry because Dr. Imran have another schedule, so we getting into your time.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I will read your CV first. Professor Kenji Sugibayashi is a president Josei International University, professor at Josei International University, and also served as distinguished appointed professor at Josei University. Received his bachelor and master from the University of Toyama in 1974 and 1976. At the time I was born. And he obtained his PhD from Gifu Pharmaceutical University in 1981. And his major is pharmaceutical and cosmetic sciences, and he has written more than 320 original articles. Wow. 150 reviews, 50 patents, and edited several books. His Google Scholar citation and age index are 7,582 and 47 respectively. And he has received so many scientific awards like the AFPS, Asia Federation of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and then Distinguished Scientist Award in 2017, the GSAAE Achievement Award, the Sukri Distinguished Keynote Lecture Award at the Asia Pacific Pharmacy Education Workshop in 2014, the APSTG Award 2013, also Best Paper in the same APSTG in 2013, 2011, 2009, and 1993. Also, for collaboration with overseas university, Josei International University is an original member of the Asian University Presidents Forum. Okay, the topic to be presented, this may be broaden in our insight, our knowledge into the pattern of transmission of COVID-19, because the title is Analysis of the COVID-19 Spreading by the Method of Mathematical Epidemiology and Pharmacokinetics. The time is 30 minutes, Professor.
Yeah, okay, so I would like to share my PowerPoint slide.
Okay, dozo, yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Can you see my slide right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I hope you can see my slide. It's okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I can start.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Kenji Sugibayashi, President of Josei International University. I very much appreciate having this chance to present my work here. Thank you for the organic committee of this conference for inviting me. The title I'm talking today is Analysis of the COVID-19 Spreading by the Method of Mathematical Epidemiology and Pharmacokinetics. So I am a pharmaceutical scientist, and I am also a pharmacist. I wanted to contribute to preventing the COVID-19 pandemic when the present pandemic was outbroken. Please take a look to the left side of this slide. When I was a student, I learned that gutter cleaning is very important to decrease the mosquitoes. Slaked lime, calcium hydroxide, was used to clean up gutters. Then please take a look to the right side of this slide. Sumitomo Chemicals Japan developed a mosquito net containing permethrin. Permethrin is an insecticide against a mosquito. This is a kind of sustained release device. It is important to check the effectiveness against mosquito as well as safety to humans, especially for infants. This mosquito net was developed by the chemical company. However, I wanted pharmaceutical companies to develop such an item because this is a medicine, not household goods. So this slide summarizes the pandemic outbreak in these 100 years. We have a cholera pandemic in 1961 to 75. This began in Indonesia and then reached to Bangladesh, Soviet Union, Africa, South America, and Central America. So in influenza, the Spanish flu is very famous. When I realized the COVID-19 outbreak, I have checked the Spanish flu first using several encyclopedias. Then H1N1 virus was a cause of the Spanish flu. The virus was a cause for swine flu in 2009 to 10 again. This virus was in sleep for 19 years. By the way, we did not know the virus when the Spanish flu was spread because we did not have an electric microscope yet. Thieves killed numerous prisoners in war camps during World War II. Pandemic sometimes relate to wars and disasters. In the case of smallpox, we celebrate its eradication in December 1979. Before introduced the vaccine for measles in 1963, 3 to 4 million cases of measles were observed in the United States each year. Tuberculosis is still one of the worst diseases in the world. 1/4 of the world's current population has been infected. Malaria, widespread in tropical and subtropical regions. Each year, approximately 350 to 500 million cases were observed. HIV/AIDS is currently a pandemic in Africa, with infection rate as high as 25% in Southern and Eastern Africa. Then I would like to focus on COVID-19. This slide compared COVID-19 with SARS and MERS because these three are diseases by coronaviruses. The first cluster of SARS cases occurred in China's Guangdong province in November 2002. The total number of cases was 8,439. So MERS is a disease that has not yet ended. The first cases was observed in the Middle East. The total number of cases is 2,419 now. No specific treatment was established against SARS and MERS. No vaccine was also developed either. Against COVID-19, no new medicines were developed yet. Of course, no vaccine has been developed yet. Many pharmaceutical companies and venture companies are conducting the research and development. Okay, so let me focus on my study, which I did the last March, April, and May. In response to the COVID-19 outbreak, I compared the way of thinking on the SIR model used in the infectious disease mathematical epidemiology with that on the linear one-compartment model with an absorption process used in PK, pharmacokinetics. In the SIR model, S number of acceptable persons becomes I, number of infected persons, and then R, number of recovered persons. Whereas G, drug amount administered to the GI tract, becomes B, drug amount in the body, and then O, eliminated drug amount in the PK model. Beta and gamma are infection and recovery rate constant, whereas Ka and Ker are absorption and eliminate rate constant, and F is the extent of bioavailability. This slide shows differential equations for SIR model and PK model. The number of infected persons, I, or drug amount in the body, B, in the different infection rates, beta, or absorption rate, Ka, and recovery rates, gamma, elimination rates, Kel, were mathematically simulated using these differential equation in the SIR model or PK model. These equations can be solved using the fourth order Runge-Kutta model. However, I use difference equations as shown in the next slide. These are difference equations in the SIR model, which I explained. These difference equations written in black, this one, can be modified to equation wrote in red here. This shows a typical example for the time course of ST, IT, and RT. ST decrease with an increase in IT. IT increase to show the maximum value and then decrease with an increase of RT. When introduces this number for beta and gamma, most people get infected as shown in this figure. In this calculation, population of Tokyo metropolitan area, 37 millions, was introduced to S0. In addition, just one people get an infection at day 0, please pay attention to the shape of the time course of IT, which was drawn in red here. This is almost symmetrical. Okay. This slide shows a typical example of the time course of drug amount in the body. The drug amount in the body, BT, is released by a decrease in KA, as shown as by the increase in KEL. Pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists must be familiar with these figures. The shape of the time course of BT is not symmetrical. This is one of the differences between the SIR model and the PK model. This slide shows the effect of initial number of infected persons on the time course of infected person in A, and the relation between log initial number of infected persons and Tmax, since infected person appears in B. When beta and gamma are the same, the shape of IT is a similar independent of the initial number of infected persons. However, the Tmax is shorter when the initial number of infected persons is increased. Interestingly, a linear relation was observed between Tmax and a logarithmic number of initially infected persons. Tmax in the first wave in the Tokyo metropolitan area was observed in the middle of April 10. This suggests that dozen or even more infected persons came to Japan from December 2019 to the beginning of January 2020. The upper part of this slide shows the number of infected people when the infection rate beta is lower. The number of infected people is sharply decreased just by reducing beta to one third. The lower part of the slide shows the number of infected people when the recovery rate gamma is increased. The number of infected people will be decreased sharply just by lapping gamma. Interestingly, no infected person were counted when the infected rate fell below a certain value, and the recovery rate exceeded over a certain value. Those values were not observed extreme. Although the analytical method using SIR model is not the same as that using the one compartment PK model with an absorption process. The analytical techniques look like each other. We believe that most pharmaceutical scientists and pharmacists can support to prevent the present spreading of infectious disease using the way of thinking on the pharmacokinetics PK. So this slide summarizes the effective parameters in the SIR model and PK model. Although the drug amount in the body or drug concentration in body can be calculated from the dose x0, the extent of bioavailability F, and absorption and elimination rate constant Ka and Kl. The number of infected persons was related to the initial number of acceptable persons, S0, and infection and recovery rate constant, beta and gamma. In addition to these values, the number of infected persons, IT, was related also to the number of infected persons themselves at that time. This table summarizes the parameters in pharmacokinetics model written in green and those in SIR model written in blue. GO, G0, KA, and KL have corresponded to S0, beta, and gamma respectively. So interestingly, no infected persons were counted when the infection rate fell below a certain value, and the recovering rate exceeded over a certain value. Those values were not obviously extreme. Although this analytical method using the SIR model is not the same as that using the one compartment PK model with an absorption process. The analytical techniques looks like each other. This similarity is a key for most pharmaceutical scientists and pharmacists to work to prevent the present spreading of infectious disease using the way of thinking of PK. This slide compare the SIR parameters with PK parameters. Acquisition of antibodies for many people, as well as vaccination, markedly decreases the infectious rate constant, beta. This is like a use of an absorption inhibitor to decrease the absorption rate constant, Ka. Hand wash, gargle, disinfection, and wearing mask are also effective to decrease beta. These are like building an absorption barrier in the GI tract. Stay informed and physical distancing are effective to decrease IT. This effect is similar to the effect of bioavailability F to decrease the absorption amount of drug. On the other hand, the use of therapeutic agent is effective to increase gamma in order to be early discovered. This is like taking diuretic metabolism promoters so as to increase the elimination rate constant, KL. Enrichment of medical equipment and medical staff is also related to increasing the gamma. Everybody here understands that development of effective vaccine and therapeutic agents against COVID-19 is very useful against this pandemic. Before obtaining the medicine, we need hand washes, gargle, disinfection, wearing a mask, stay home, and physical distancing. So I would like to add a few more slides. I believe that pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists need to clearly imagine about health program in our society. In addition, we need to clear good medicine and method against the problem. We must consider for the image and creation. About only 1% of medicine I learned 50 years ago when I was a student are still alive. The speed of development of therapeutic agents is accelerating. So the therapeutic drugs taught to current students will disappear within 15 to 20 years. Most of them become nostalgic drugs. There are terms such as transhuman or posthuman. I had cataract surgery 2 years ago and put in artificial lens. So I became transhuman. If you are worried about dementia, you can overcome it by copying your brain every day and installing the copied brain the day before. However, if it becomes possible, it will be an ethical issue or not. I wonder that the drug will change from oral pills and capsules to installing ones in the near future. You can install the medicine and turn it on with your smartphone when you need to take the medicine. The era of introducing advanced technology to the pharmacy is just around the corner. However, our pharmacy education is still old-fashioned. This slide illustrates the installed medicine, which I believe to be new medicine. So in conclusion, I would like to show the method to contribute to the social and human health as pharmaceutical scientists and pharmacists. 1. We are members of a society, which is a group of people having different current background. 2. It is very important for even scientists to understand others. It is important. 3. It is important to strive to imagine what society and others want to be, and to continue learning and creating. 4. Learning in other fields and interdisciplinary areas is also important for nature creativity. We are scientists. Even so, we need to work as an enthusiastic person. If we have a scientific knowledge and scientific mind, we can contribute to the human health program in our society. Okay, thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you for Professor Sugibayashi. It's very interesting. I'll note some quote from you that the pharmacy should change the way of thinking about the pharmacokinetic, and also about the future medicine. It's very interesting also, become from oral to install medicine, and we should learning in other fields. It's very also interesting interdisciplinary area for nurture our creativity. And also as for scientists, we have to have enthusiastic to innovate, to research about this pandemic solutions. Okay, Professor, this is a panel session actually. Maybe question and answer will be have time in another after the fourth speakers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, right now we would like to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Rap Barton. Is there Professor Dr. Rap Barton here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you.
If you still remember, maybe in the 2018, I and Fajar Arianti come to Griffith University.
Okay.
Yes, we initiate the MOU between UIN and the Griffith University.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes.
So you would have worked with Lucinda from our Griffith International originally?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I would like to read your CV first before your speaking. Okay. He is associate professor, and then his master in University of Huddersfield, also the Bachelor of Science, and also Master of Business Administration in the same university, and registered nurse, learning disabilities, and then advanced research skill for nurse tutors. And you are right now is associate professor in the international program director in the School of Nursing in Midwifery, Griffith University, responsible for delivering the Bachelor of Nursing program in Singapore, and also directing the strategy for internationalization, like curriculum development, international student recruitment and experience, research and partnership within the school. You are UK registered nurse specializing in the field of learning disabilities. Okay, this is our problems in sharing the education to college students, because right now we have to give a lesson online. So this is very suitable with your expertise. You are so many articles also, publications. All right, and today you will give a speech about the challenges and opportunities in the teaching learning process in nursing, experiences in transitional BN program delivered in Singapore throughout COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, 30 minutes for you. Floor is yours.
Okay, let me set my timer and let me see if I can share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so bear with me. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Not yet. Okay, it's
Is it there?
starting. Okay, it's okay.
Yes, okay. So thank you for inviting me to speak at this prestigious event. And I'd like to say a good morning to our distinguished hosts and distinguished colleagues and guests. And it's really nice to be among such, as I say, distinguished company here. My presentation will be slightly different. I'm coming from an educationalist point of view. The previous speakers gave us some great information about the nature of COVID and also approaches to dealing with that. So, but I will give you some background and tell you how we've had to deal with this impact on educational course. Okay, so my presentation is entitled Challenges and Opportunities in Learning and Teaching in Nursing, and it's experiences from a transnational Bachelor of Nursing program that I deliver here in Singapore. So I work for Griffith University in Australia, but I'm actually based in Singapore, and I deliver a course for Singaporean nurses. So all my students are already qualified nurses. So they are upskilling from diploma level to bachelor's level of nursing. And that's my directorship that I deliver the program here in Singapore. So welcome from Singapore to you all. First of all, I would like to speak a little bit about transition, because that's an area I'm really interested in, particularly the area from transitioning from being a student nurse to actually being a qualified nurse. Although it's slightly different for my students at the moment because they are already qualified nurses, but they will go through an area of transition from being diplomat nurses to Bachelor of Nursing graduates, meaning we are expecting a different level of thinking. And transition does not only occur at that pre-registration undergraduate level, it occurs at all levels through our careers. So for example, when I moved from England to Singapore/Australia, I went through these same experiences of transition. And I want to provide this as some background context as to how this might apply in the COVID setting and amongst the impacts there. So this is a shameless advertisement to a certain extent. This is I'm very proud of this. It's the second edition of our book that we have released with my colleague, Dr. Graham Ormerod. And so this includes the notion of transition, but includes many areas that people have to consider in their professional careers, such as leadership and management and teaching and accountability and legal aspects. So most students are protected. They are in a bubble. They are protected by their teaching faculty. And when they are in practice, they're protected by the practitioners that supervise them. But what happens when people transition from one level to another is there is some kind of culture shock or reality shock. And that comes from changes in emotional states, changes in the social standing and social situation for people, different expectations at the intellectual level. So for example, as a student, there's always someone to ask. As a qualified practitioner, quite often you are the one that's being asked the questions. And obviously the physical nature of work and work environments. So there's a reality shock that occurs in these areas within the context that people work and shift from whichever level they are at. And so therefore there's a requirement for people to adjust and go through a period of social adjustment. And this means they need to become professionally grounded. They need to understand and respect cultures. So that's not just, you know, international cultures, that kind of thing. It's actually organizational cultures and working cultures. And the final point here that this leader who was interviewed mentioned about how to adjust was about navigating chaos, because as a qualified practitioner, everything appears chaotic. And there's been nothing more chaotic, certainly in my career, since COVID-19 year. You know, the year of COVID-19 has certainly created chaos for everyone on a global scale. So what happens when we go through these transition experiences? As I'm sure we all understand, it's very stressful. It's a stressful experience. We have to reflect on our professional self. How do we operate as professionals? There is some emotional upheaval. One thing, because if you're involved in a program, you've got friends, and then you separate from all your friends and you go into new environments. So there's some emotional upheaval in that, and there's experience related to your identity. You're no longer a student, you are a professional, or a higher professional. There's questions regarding your know-how and competence, and there's this thing called imposter syndrome. Quite often people move up a level in their careers and they feel they are not ready for the role, and that they do not really deserve to be there. Actually, they do, because they gain the qualifications and experience, but there's a lack of confidence in their own competence and know-how. And then there are boundary changes in what is allowed and what's not allowed. So just checking on the time. Yeah, I'm okay. Other aspects is the expectations from others about the role of the person. So, for example, a graduate nurse that upskills from diploma to bachelor of degree level, we expect more from them in relation to their critical thinking, and therefore with a view that their critical thinking actually increases positive patient outcomes. And we know from some research many years ago that if you increase the amount of Bachelor of Nursing graduate students into a clinical area, outcomes for patients actually improve as well. There are questions related to time management, because the responsibility for time management is on the individual to a certain extent. And again, this, as I mentioned before, some people have a lack of confidence with clinical skills. But that only comes from experience, and being in situations are all learning experiences. One of the big things that people experience is this notion of decision making. So, you know, certainly having to make decisions and be accountable for those decisions. Can I just check you are all seeing these slides as I'm moving them on?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Other aspects that impact on us is the workload that we have, having to deal with death and dying, sometimes inadequate preparation, sometimes a lack of support from other staff, and sometimes a lot of uncertainty in relation to sort of clinical approaches. And this is a big one, conflict with other professionals. I have many times in my career as a clinician had debates and discussions and sometimes arguments with other professionals. So psychologists, medical doctors, other nurses, physiotherapists and such, in relation to providing the best care for the patients. And also there's intra-conflicts between people in the same profession. So nurses have conflicts with each other. So the context that I'm wanting to sort of paint here is that anyone that goes through a period of transition has this reality shock that occurs because of all these kinds of experiences. Now, obviously that creates stress. And what we know is that we often lose up to 1/3 of qualified nurses in their first year as registered practitioners. They leave the profession in the first year. So all these stresses are here. Now, you think about that and you add to that COVID and the stress levels and the need to manage this actually increases. So here we are. We are in COVID world at the moment, and we've seen from our previous speakers some of the strategies that are being employed to actually deal deal with this. And, you know, we're all common with the masks now. Everybody has the masks. Although, you know, we've seen from some news reports that there are some countries where there is less acceptance of mask wearing. So there are some people that are anti-mask, etc. But pretty much this is a global aspect, and the world is following. And the term I've heard used this morning is the new normal. And we certainly are using novel ways to address these issues. And it's ironic that COVID happened in the International Year of the Nurse and Midwife. 2020 is the International Year of the Nurse and Midwife. And it is a time, this was initially set up for celebrating the roles of nurses and midwives across the world. And yet it's brought them into sharp focus for different reasons, mainly the roles that they play in managing, being on the front line in managing the pandemic in the healthcare services and organizations. What we do know is around 59% of professionals in the healthcare sectors are nurses. So we are the largest body of professionals in there. So you have nurses transitioning from qualifying, you have nurses transitioning at different career levels. You have them going through this reality shock, and then you throw in COVID to this largest workforce. So very challenging times for everyone. Add to that the fact that we have around a shortage of around 6 million nurses worldwide. So, and that's, you know, qualified nurses. So again, everybody is looking to recruit nurses. So the promotion of nursing as a profession is a good thing, because a lot of people have seen the good work that nurses have been doing, and there has been some signs that more people are actually applying to become nurses, but there's still a shortage. However, because of COVID, so this is from the ICN, some 10% of COVID-19 cases are amongst healthcare workers globally. And we've had more than 1,000 nurses that have died in over 44 countries. And according to Amnesty International, they suggest it's nearer 3,000, with basically in the UK, 540 nurses in the UK alone dying of COVID. From this survey from the ICN, 70% of the respondents from nursing associations also highlighted an increasing violence against frontline workers. So nurses on the front line were actually being assaulted and abused and threatened during this high stress situation, as well as a further 60% highlighting an increase in incidence of mental health issues. So the point that I'm making is that we throw all of these issues into the mix, and it's a very challenging time for nurses on the front line, and therefore it's a very challenging time for us as professionals and educators. So some of these changes that have occurred for nurses, they've stated that their regular duties have changed. So nurses are having to transition by learning different duties and different operating procedures. Many are working overtime hours. 50% of nurses working, or from this study, 50% of the nurses in this study were shown to be working overtime hours. There was around 50% had concerns over the effectiveness of personal protective equipment. And 50% felt they'd been treated differently during this COVID. And there was a lot of concern about them and their families being infected. So stress, anxiety all these issues, it's a very difficult environment for nurses to be working in. So bearing in mind that my students are already qualified nurses, they are already on the front line. So they are facing these stresses, as well as facing the stresses of being part of a Bachelor of Nursing degree program, an upskilling program. So how do we navigate that? So a number of students are on the front lines, and some undergraduate students as well as post-qualified students to boost the workforce in phases of the pandemic. And, you know, pretty much, as we say, the new normal. So if we start to look at from an educational perspective, COVID impacted the educational field fairly early on as well, and the education sector had to respond. So a sign very early, sort of February-ish, March, you know, classrooms were stopped. Actual physical classrooms stopped, and I'm sure many of us have walked down corridors and seen empty classes like this that would normally be bustling and, you know, lots of students involved. So empty classrooms, empty offices, empty buildings. So a sad sight for us as educationalists. And I know from personal experience that my students in Singapore actually love to be in the classroom setting. They like the face-to-face engagement with teachers in a classroom setting where they can meet with their friends and their colleagues and conduct their studies. But the ghost classroom is now the new normal, and we've moved up into online. So a study I was involved in very early looked at what responses universities gave. And for example, there was the stopping of students going onto campus. There was the stopping of students, international students, being able to travel to their host universities overseas. A big disappointment for students for not being able to do their graduation events. And there was also the shift into new systems and moving online. And basically the challenge of replicating what the students would have been receiving in the university setting to maintain the quality as far as possible in an online world. Not an easy task. So this has provided unique challenges for all of us, not just for the care providers, but for the educationalists. We also had other issues for nursing students. So some students are removed from their practicums and clinical placements. We had to maintain their safety. There's travel restrictions, quarantine, as I mentioned, interruptions in their education. So classes having to be cancelled and so on until everything shifted online. Anxieties about not graduating. I had groups of students that were, but we want to graduate. Are we going to still be able to graduate? We had to move to online learning and support, and we had to recognise these extra roles that nurses were doing. So our extra demands placed on my students from their workplaces impacted on their ability to study. So lots of things we had to take into consideration. So we had to think differently about lectures, we had to think differently about tutorials, we had to think differently how we present the modules that students are taught. We had to look at different ways of group work, simulation, and things like academic integrity. So I want to basically sort of go through this quickly in my last 10 minutes to look at how we responded. So I'll give you the context. Back in February, we were running face-to-face lectures, and we were running a clinical health assessment course. Now, on the Saturday, we had a lecture with all our students together in one place. And then on the Monday, we were running tutorials where the students were split into smaller groups, and would be doing that. On the Monday, I got a call telling me that one of our students was symptomatic and had undertaken a COVID test. Now, basically, we could not bring all those students, particularly because they were nurses, together in a face-to-face setting. And so I found out at 5 p.m. that this student was being tested, and the session was at 7 p.m. So we literally had to cancel the face-to-face classes and move online within a 2-hour situation. So I had to prepare my staff and I had to prepare the students. So you can imagine the sort of panic there. We could not sort of cross-contaminate our nursing students with each other, because that would have just created chaos in the healthcare system. Fortunately, that student was negative at the time, so we were okay. But we basically moved online in a 2-hour window. So again, as I mentioned, we had to think about how do we do our lectures online. I use a software called Nearpod. How do we do our tutorials online? We had to use shared PowerPoints. I used team-based learning. We had to move our exams online, and we had to move our OSCEs online. And I have to thank my team, who also moved very quickly to respond to these changes. So this is related to our clinical face-to-face. This is what a class would have looked like in very small groups doing, this is a very rudimentary simulation lab, because these students are already qualified and working in clinical areas, but we're doing high-level clinical assessment skills. Now, I was going to show you a video, but I don't have much time. We had to basically take that class and move it online. So the team that I showed you had to create videos of doing skills assessments in a very short space of time with our technology team, and they did really well. But I will share that link into the chat, and you can look at the actual how the videos were conducted. So we had this whole new world. We have local tutors that support in our tutorials, and so we all moved online, and we had to work together with the students, and we were literally learning as we went along. So this is clips from the videos where our team prepared the skills videos for students, and we taught them through that in an online setting, and we also looked at how we could actually do OSCEs online. So our students no longer had access to a lab to do their OSCEs, and they were working from home. They were being assessed at home, and there was circuit breaker and lockdown measures in place, which meant they did not have access. So we had to look at alternative ways of doing that. This is basically just the rubric for assessing, and we basically did the assessment online, where students were given a case study, and they had to conduct that online and be asked questions by their tutors. And what we did is we took stills from those videos, and then the students could give us a narrative as they wrote on the photographs of how they would actually conduct these assessments. So we replicated that as much as possible. The students evaluated that kind of well. From my point of view, we used to do big face-to-face lectures, and I wanted to increase active learning, so I introduced team-based learning. And in team-based learning, there are 3 main stages. One is the preparation of material. The other one is doing some tests, to readiness assurance tests. And the third one is applying the knowledge. And what we know from research around team-based learning is that it improves grades, and it improves satisfaction, and it improves engagement. And I've also done a study where that's been shown to be the case. So I wanted to replicate what we did in class face-to-face in an online setting. So I'm going to shift that because I'm running out of time. So it involves small group instruction. So rather than giving a lecture to 100 students, they're broken down into groups, but you still only need the one facilitator. And they do these individual work and teamwork, and they get immediate feedback. So the 3 phases: preparation, readiness, and application. So you can see here, the classrooms are a lot different to that big lecture type setting that we had. And we do 2 tests: the individual readiness assurance test, the IRAT, and then the team test. So individuals do the test first, then come together as a team to actually do the same test, where they need to negotiate the answers together. So here you can see the team sharing their answers to the tests that they do in class, and they get immediate feedback after this by using a scratch card where the answer is revealed. So if they get the question right first time, then they get 4 points. If they get it second time, they get 3 points, etc. So this is a scratch card. So this is what we would do face to face. And you can see the students here doing their scratch card and checking their results in class. And this is where they do the application. So they're given a case scenario in which to actually then demonstrate the knowledge. Now, online, we had to basically shift all that into an online. So we had to do the individual test and a team test online and an application exercise online. So we had the platform, the Blackboard platform, to do the individual readiness assurance test, which is basically just a multiple choice test. So students would do this, and they would get they would not be given their results straight away, but they would keep a note of their answers. Then they get into teams and groups within the setting, and they would go through the same test again and come up with team answers. So students could sort of compare their individual performance against a team, and they would share their answers, and then they can check the test to see what scores they would get. And we use this other platform called Smart Sparrow. So then they would do the test. If they get it right first time, they get the 3 or 4 points, etc. So students like this because they get immediate feedback as to what their knowledge is, and teachers at the end can clarify the areas where students are lacking in the knowledge. The materials are all available to them from either a keynote lecture or the materials within the virtual learning environment. Then we give them a scenario. So this is one asking them to deliver a teaching session on hand washing. And this is where the shared PowerPoints come in. And so, for example, this is one slide where students are perhaps giving us some feedback on how they would approach this session. So using using Bloom's taxonomy and using the VARC learning style approach to learning, the visual, auditory, reading, kinesthetic approach. So we got some good responses to that. Okay, so my timer is telling me I'm out of time. I put this on because we were, at some point, we were trying to problem solve as to how students would be able to demonstrate their clinical skills. So if they were in their own environment with no equipment. So I quickly made up a mannequin out of a couple of cushions, a t-shirt, in order to demonstrate you can actually do it. You can still demonstrate. You can create a mannequin and use your imagination. Luckily, we didn't need to do that because we went along the video route and with the actors. But we were really brainstorming. So this is just brainstorming, and we were looking at ways to actually get students to join in by creating mannequins. But that this did not get used, but it was an affectionate distraction, let's say. Okay, so that is basically the end of my presentation, and they're the references. And so I'm happy to take any questions and clarify any points that anybody may have missed. I will stop sharing the screen now. So there we are.
Okay, thank you, Professor. It's very interesting about the nursing learning how to teach in the transition area, because nurses in front of line, so many duties of nurses had changed. And since COVID-19, this caused stress to the nurses, and this is impact the educational field as well. And we have to engage each other, remove into online, and we have to also maintain quality of educational in online setting. So I'm sure there are so many questions for you, but we should hold on. Thank you very much, your presentation. Okay, now we would like to come into the fourth speaker, Professor Dr. Kemal N. Siregar.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alhamdulillah, ketemu lagi ya, Prof.
Iya.
Okay, I would like to read your CV first. Professor Kemal N. Siregar is my professor in the Faculty of Public Health in University of Indonesia, and he got general practitioner from Faculty of Medicine in University of Indonesia, and also his master's. At the time is 1975. That time I was born, Professor. Okay, and he got a Master of Art in UK, also PhD. And I remember in 1990 until 1993, you are Dean of Faculty of Public Health, University of Indonesia. And right now, you ever became Chair of Indonesian Public Health Association, and also Chair of the Reproductive Health Study Group, Chair of the Department of Biostatic and Population Studies. And from 2018 until 2020, become Chair of Public Health Collegium with Bu Fajar ya, Professor. Okay, Professor Kemal Siregar will be present about implementing new normal. What we need to anticipate is public health practitioners. 30 minutes for you, Professor. Time is yours.
Thank you, moderators, Dr. Dewi. Could you hear me clear?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, thank you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Good morning, distinguished colleague and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you, the organizers, for inviting me to this very important scientific meeting. The materials that I will convey is entitled Implementing New Normal, What We Need to Anticipate as Public Health Practitioners. I prepared this material together with my colleague, Dr. Fajar, from the State Islamic University, Jakarta. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, the current status of COVID-19 in Indonesia will be presented, as well as the form of Indonesia's response to the pandemic. Even though the pandemic has not been fully handled, the Indonesian government has prepared a number of policies toward a new normal, while still prioritizing the public health aspect. Here, there is a question: when will the new normal be implemented? On this basis, it is necessary to always develop public health functions to be able to face the new normal era properly, which of course needs to be supported by the roles of public health practitioners. In order to have a good public health human resources, support from public health professionals, organizations, and educational institutions are urgently needed. Slide, please. Next, yeah. Let me start with the status of COVID-19 in Indonesia. Next slide. As of October 25th, 2020, the number of cases in Indonesia was ranked 19 in the world, where Indonesia's population was fourth in the world. The number of cases in the world is 42 million and more, and Indonesia is almost 400,000 cases. Indonesia's recovery rate, which tend to increase, has now reached 79%, which is higher than the global figure of 70%. However, Indonesia's mortality rate, which tend to continue to decline, currently reaching 3.4%, is still higher than the global figure of 2.8. Next, please. Yeah, next slide. Next. Yeah. The first case in Indonesia occurred in March 2020, which is reported later compared to neighboring countries. The government regulation on large-scale social restriction was issued in order to accelerate the handling of COVID-19. One of which is by closing workplaces, including schools. While the epidemic curve in neighboring countries is already sloping or declining, in Indonesia, the trend of the number of daily cases is still increasing. Slide. In fact, cases in Indonesia are not evenly distributed across this vast country. The largest number of cases are in the national capital, Jakarta, as well as 9 other provinces. Next slide. The following topic is about what is new normal, the case of Indonesia. The new normal developed in Indonesia is a scenario for accelerating the handling of COVID-19. First, on the health dimensions, then at the same time in the socio-economic aspects. This understanding or definition is carried out without doing a dichotomy, whether it is concerned with health or economy. Both are considered to be closely related to each other, where the health aspect takes precedence as a condition for being able to carry out productive activities economically. This understanding is actually in accordance with the concept of health, that health condition must be met first, so that a person can then be socially and economically productive. The healthy concept that is believed by public health professionals can be seen in reality in the current COVID-19 pandemic situation. Slide. Government of Indonesia announced already a new normal implementation plan, taking into account epidemiological studies and regional readiness, which at this time, the number of cases was still increasing. The coordinating minister for economic affairs, after limited meeting on May the 18th, mentioned that the president already hopes that this new normal will be implemented with several considerations. And at the same time, Minister of National Development Planning said that we have to follow WHO recommendations. After that, Minister of Health issued a decree concerning guideline for prevention and control of COVID-19 in the office, industrial workplace, in support of business continuity in pandemic situations. Next slide. Yeah. We can see how the government has responded along the way the increasing COVID-19 cases in Indonesia. On March the 2nd, the president announced for the first time confirmed 2 cases of COVID-19. And at the same month, at the end of the March 2020, the government imposed large-scale social restrictions. while the new cases still increasing, the president already hoped that the new normal will be implemented taking into account epidemiological studies and regional readiness. But then, until now, there is no definitive indications. So that the question is, when will a new normal take effect? Next slide. Yeah. Yeah, the new normal phrases in relation to COVID-19 refers to changes in human behavior after this pandemics. According to WHO, there is a new normal requirements that the countries are capable to control COVID-19. Here, every country wishing to make a transition, scenario relaxations, and new normal scenario must pay attention to the following. Evidence to show that COVID-19 transmission can be controlled, public health and health system capacities, including hospitals, are in place to identify, isolate, test, trace contact, and quarantine. The risk of coronavirus is minimized in high vulnerability settings, such as nursing home, mental health facilities, and people living in crowded places. The fourth, workplace preventive measures are in place with physical distancing, hand washing facilities, and respiratory hygiene. The fifth, import case risk can be managed. Lastly, the sixth, people have a voice and are involved in the new normal life. Now, I want to talk a little about public health function in new normal. It is necessary to always develop public health functions to be able to encounter the new normal era properly. As we know that overall function of public health is to improve and protect the public's health. Next. Yeah. In new normal, the public health function aims to make public health institutions, especially at the district and city level work, especially the health office and puskesmas, the public health center, hospitals, in collaboration with various related sectors, to ensure workplaces, including schools, carry out strict procedures to prevent COVID-19 transmission. Here, public health professionals play a very important role, especially those working in the public institutions mentioned above. There is a statement that mentioning transitioning towards a new normal must be guided by public health principles together with the economic and societal considerations. The guideline issued by Ministry of Health provide that government, the private sectors, the community must cooperate and collaborate in effort to mitigate and control COVID-19. Here, the roles of health office, employment officer, health centers, hospitals, clinics, offices, and industrial workplace and workers are all laid out in this guideline. Next, please. Yeah. Hopefully, this subtopic would answer the question on the title of this presentation, which is the roles of public health practitioners. Public health practitioners have an important role, especially those who work in various public health institutions in districts and cities to protect public health from the spread of COVID-19 during the new normal period, so that people remain productive when carrying out their social and economic activities. However, this role is not only for COVID, but also for other public health functions that have been running so far. It must continue to function even more. For example, achieving complete basic immunizations coverage. Another example is health services for mothers and children affected by COVID-19 need to be improved immediately so that the public health status can always be improved. Next. Yeah. Here, the public skills, public health skills that must be applied and their capacity always to be improved, yeah, including hard skills consisting of analysis and assessment, policy development and program planning, communication skills, cultural or local wisdom competency, community dimension of practice, public health sciences, financial planning and management, leadership and system thinking. I would like to end with this, that to be able to have a good public health practitioners, the capacity of those public health practitioners must always be improved. And for this, there are supports needed from public health professionals, organizations, and educational institutions. Yeah. Support from public health educational institutions is characterized by pre-service training, will include a strong academic education, professional education relevant to the world of work, including handling COVID-19, field work on community empowerment, which prepares people to behave healthily in the new normal area, strengthening lecturers through online-based training for the COVID-19 issues and new normal. I'm interested what Dr. Professor Rob mentioned before about team-based learning. I would like to learn more about that. And the support from public health professional organization will characterize by in-service training, including functional job training for those working in public services, certified skills training, standardized training through online-based learning on the issues of COVID-19 and new normal, community health volunteer training for community empowerment in handling COVID-19 and healthy behavior in the new normal area. I've been working for this particular point with Dr. Baikuni from this university, that he is also the chairman of Public Health Association for Jakarta City. Next, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me say my final words. Although it is not certain when the new normal will take effect in Indonesia, the role of public health practitioners is very important to always be ready. This is, of course, not only to accelerate the handling of COVID-19, but also when facing the new normal later, so that people's behavior can really change to prevent the spread of COVID-19. In addition to being related to COVID-19, it is also important that the public health function that has been running so far must be further improved, because many of them have been affected by COVID-19, and this must function again. Instead, its performance must be improved to improve the health status of the community. Thus, public health practitioners must always improve themselves and their skills in dealing with public health problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kemal, for your presentation. I see that the new normal life change our habit, and this is a new duty for public health practitioners because we have to carry out a procedure to prevent COVID-19 transmission, for example, and collaborate and cooperate with other institutions to make this happen. And then also with other professionals, and this must be support from the educational institution and also from public health organizations. So many job for the public health practitioners. So we have to improve our capacity for dealing with the COVID-19. Okay, thank you, Professor Kemal. Now we come up into the question and answer session. We invite the speakers, Professor Kenji Sugibayashi, and then Professor Rob Burton, and then Professor Kemal. The first question is from Ibu Yuni, Mrs. Yuni, to Professor Kenji Sugibayashi. Ibu Yuni asking about, does this model can be applied to every condition in every country? How do you get the data to input into the model? In Indonesia, there are many undetected cases of COVID-19, making it difficult to get accurate data. How to prove that this model is suitable?
Okay, so the present SIR model is very famous. It was developed a few decades ago. So if you check the website to the SIR model, we have a lot of information. So please check the SIR model. And the SIR model is very useful to estimate the number of infected people in Japan, also in Indonesia and other countries too. So, but it depends on the parameter we use. Okay, the most important parameter for SIR model is beta and gamma, as I mentioned. So, but usually when we calculate the SIR model, we use just a constant. The beta and gamma is a constant, but depend on the passion we feel. The beta becomes decreasing. For example, if we wear the mask, the beta is decreasing. So that's why it's not a constant. However, roughly we can estimate that people, the infected people in one area. So it's not for Indonesia or just Jakarta or Surabaya, something like that. Okay, so you can put the number of people, the population in that area. Yeah, so then you can calculate roughly the amount of infected people. Okay, please check the website for SIR model. Okay.
Okay, so Ibu Yuni, we should learn SIR model first before we implement it into Indonesian data first. Okay, thank you. Another question is from Mr. Barch Ark, from Professor Kenji Sugibayashi also. What was your inspiration of using SIR model used in the infectious disease mathematical epidemiology with that on linear one compartment model with an absorption process used in PK pharmacokinetics?
Okay, if you are interested in the pharmacokinetics, we have to learn how to calculate the blood level after oral administration or after injection. So that is a kind of a differential model. We use a differential model also in SIR model. So when I check the COVID-19 outbreak, I firstly check the epidemiology in that area. So then I know SIR model. SIR model shows a kind of differential equations. That is the same to the pharmacokinetics model. Then I try to calculate. So if you know the pharmacokinetics, you can start to calculate SIR model. Okay.
Thank you. The next one is from Ibu Sabrina. Maybe you know Mrs. Sabrina. And her questions is that you highlighted that the era of introducing advanced technology to the pharmacy is just around the corner. However, our pharmacy education is still old-fashioned. How is it important, do you think, to make harmonization or internationalization in pharmacy education in the world? That's
Okay, so that is very, very, a big question. We live in now, we live in 2020. But for the advanced pharmacist or, a pharmaceutical scientist, we have to imagine about 2040, for example. Okay, so when we imagine the situation in 2040, we have to consider 20 years ago or 50 years ago. As I mentioned to you that only 1% of drugs was can be used now. Among the drug we learned in my student days, which is 50 years ago. So then, 20 years later, most of the drugs we are using now is disappeared. So that's why we have to think about new drugs or new therapeutic method. That is very important. So I think the law of pharmacist or pharmaceutical scientist or medical practitioner, we have to think about the future. So we have to create the items for the item for therapy in the near future. So that's the one. That's why I try to studies on the installed drug delivery system. Okay.
Mrs. Sabrina, we should innovate. We should think about future. We can stop with the old-fashioned education. Okay.
Yeah, I know the in different country we have different situation in different countries, but we should talk each other. Okay.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yes.
Let's study to talk. Okay.
It's a change, Dr. Sabrina, to work each other with Professor. Okay, the next one is from Bu Estu. Could you please to explain current update research about install the medicine and turn it on with your smartphone when you need to take a medicine? This one a new information for me. Is there any update research about that?
Okay, now we have three kinds of drugs. One is low molecular drugs. The second one is middle molecular drug, which can be injected intracutaneously or subcutaneously. And third one is high molecular drugs. For the high molecular drugs, we have to inject intravenously. Okay, but most of the drugs we use are low molecular drugs. So at first, we have to think about the site of install. So what kind of site for a body to be the installed site? One is on skin. the skin surface, we can apply it on skin. Okay, we can apply several drugs on skin. But after apply on skin, the drug does not absorb, are not absorbed right now. Okay, so the second site for install is in skin, intradermis. Okay, it is very good for the middle size medicine, not low molecular size. In case of low molecular size, we can apply just on skin. In middle size of drug, we have to apply intradermally. Okay, but for the high molecular drug, it is very difficult right now because we have to inject intravenously. We need some, catheter to the vein. Okay, but I think within 10 years we can install several drugs. I hope so. That's my dream.
Yes, your prediction in the 10 years future. Okay, thank you for Professor Sugibayasi. This is there were questions for you, and now right into Professor Barton. This is from Ibu Irma. I would like to know more about how you set laboratory skills and hospital practice for your students, and how we ensure that meet the nurse competency.
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, first of all, my own students are all post-qualified nurses, so they're already registered and they're already working in the clinical areas, and they are doing a post-registration qualification. But obviously, we are required by Singapore Nursing Board here to include a module on clinical health assessment, so advanced clinical assessment skills. What we aim to do in that module is to actually look at the nurse's critical thinking skills through various systems, so neurological system, cardiovascular system, etc. How we normally do that is in an OSCE situation whereby the students are given a scenario, and they would normally do that with a friend, a colleague, or another student, where they would undertake the assessment based on the case scenario with their colleague, and they would demonstrate that face-to-face, being observed by an assessor. Obviously, when we moved online, we did not have that luxury of being able to put people together because of lockdown and quarantine, etc., and also about the resources. So that's where we were looking at those options, and because we set up the videos of the skills, which we broke down and we narrated and presented to the students, and we let them have all those videos were available for the students to keep watching within the virtual learning environment. When it came to doing their assessment, we basically used a set of still photographs from that. So for example, the torso, as you could see from the photographs in the presentation, there was a photograph of that, and the students were able to take control of the screen and write on there what they would be doing, what they would be saying. It meant that the students had to actually explain a lot more about what they would be doing rather than being observed. So they would be saying, I will wash my hands, I will comfort the patient, I need to say this, and they would still go through that in the same way. And then the assessors would actually ask questions of the students as well, just as they would if they were face to face. So the only thing that was missing was a real patient, and the actual chance to physically demonstrate that. But the students were able to discuss the principles of what they would be doing. We did have one case, however, whereby it was suspected. We heard a voice in the background, and the student actually had someone in the room with them giving them an answer to some of the questions. And we actually, it was almost like a forensic investigation. We took the video of the assessment, we cleared up the sound, and it was very definite that the person was feeding the answers to the student who was repeating what was being said. So we dealt with that as an academic integrity case. That was the only case that we had, but students were supposed to had signed a disclaimer to say they would be in the room alone and so on in the online session. So there were some challenges, you know, but we still found, you know, a student that was basically cheating the system in that sense. In relation to, you know, undergraduate students doing their skills, my university has basically set up a social distancing approach whereby less students are allowed in the labs at any one time, which obviously increases the sort of costs of managing that because you have to do a lot more repetition. So there's a lot of social distancing protocols in place for that. But for my students that are post-registered, we had to do that in the online setting with using the videos and the photographs. I mean, the photographs I showed were just one example. We had photographs from each different scenario. And we actually paid actors to pretend to be the patients. Although they didn't have to have a script or anything, they just had to answer the questions the nurse was asking them. So we basically took photographs of that at different stages. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Professor. The next question is from Chandra Kanti. I would like to ask about the clinical practice in the hospital for new nursing students, which is required to do in some universities, which is required to do in some university. What do you think about it? Will it be an effective study, or it will new student with low clinical experience to be infected with the COVID-19 virus? What do you think?
Yes, this has been a challenge worldwide about what to do with student placements. It's a two-sided coin, because one side of the coin is that if you have students in the workplace, they can take away some of the tasks that, you know, the lesser tasks or the less important tasks that qualified nurses would be doing, and they can conduct those tasks. Therefore, the qualified nurses can focus on the more important tasks. So they help in the workforce in one sense. However, the other side of the coin is that these students themselves are important and need a lot of attention, particularly if they're learning new skills. And obviously, with everybody focusing on dealing with COVID and other other priorities, maybe not as much time can be given to that. So a number of universities have had to look at their placements and, you know, put students into sort of situations that are of lesser urgency or less acute, if you understand, you know, so more general type of placements to gain more basic skills earlier than some of the more complicated ones. So some placements have been shifted around so that they do not actually do those more clinically challenging places until a little later. But obviously that's caused disruption and sequencing of programs and expectations and so on. In UK, basically, there was a government policy whereby students in their final year, rather than undertaking their final placement, they were registered early and then allowed to go into the practice 6 months early as members of the workforce. But they're supposed to have 1 year's preceptorship. There was some benefits, but some challenges related to that as well. So it's not an easy question. There's not one approach that's worked. I think everybody's had to do some shuffling around of sequencing of placements. And the other point about that, people getting infected is, yes, there is a risk. Obviously,
Yes.
we can see that health workers are in the front line are prone to being infected. And as I said, 540 deaths of nurses in the UK is a big statistic. So we have to make sure that those nurses are protected as students.
Yes.
So that's why some of those more clinically challenging places, students would not be allowed on until a later date when things are more settled.
Yes, it's very high risk. Yeah. Okay, the next one is from Bu Nia. The question is, do you experience any barriers of the students and faculties in this transition, especially for TBL method, and how do you handle that?
Okay, yes. Good question. Obviously, one of the first things was getting to use the platforms, and the platforms don't always replicate the face-to-face learning exactly and the processes. So it was adapting to what was available within the virtual learning environments. So, for example, in a face-to-face classroom, when I put students into teams, I put them into teams beforehand. I make sure that it's random, so they're not sat with friends, because in the real world, when you go to work on a hospital ward, you cannot choose your colleagues who you work with. You work with whoever's rostered. So basically, I applied that principle to team-based learning. That then stopped people sitting with their friends and everything. And in the face-to-face setting, my students did not like that. They wanted to sit with their friends, but I'm saying, no, this is to replicate the real world. So when you are here, you sit with people you are not necessarily familiar with. And I wanted to replicate that also when we went into the online version. So within Blackboard and the platform called Collaborate, which is similar to Zoom, I created breakout rooms. So I put the students into breakout rooms. But what the challenge there was I could not, the platform did not allow me to communicate with all of the groups at the same time. So I had to use a chat function in order to do that, which was not very elegant, but it served its purpose. Whereas if I was in a big room, I could just give one instruction, and even though people might be in small groups on tables, everybody would hear the same instruction at the same time. But I could not do that in the breakout rooms. So the only way to do that was by the chat. And what that created for me, because I was using multiple choice questions that would later be on an exam, created a lot of work for me, because once a question is out there, the students could just copy it and keep that question. Therefore, I had to set up an entire new list of questions to be used in their exam, because to maintain the security of the exam. So there was security of exams, there was, we had issues with students' connections, that kind of thing, and being thrown out. But we tended to find ways around that. We were learning together. We were finding things were not working, so we would go to our IT people and we would solve a problem and find a way around it. But and obviously I incorporated some other different platforms as well, like Nearpod and Smart Sparrow, which we were able to use via sharing the screen. So yes, not without its challenges, but you have to problem solve as you go along, to be honest.
Okay. Okay, the last one for you is from me. I would like to know about the curriculum, because the nurses has facing very stressful about their duties. Is that you redesigned your curriculum, for example, about the stress, how they manage about their stress?
Interesting question. I mean, obviously, nursing programs are actually set, even, post-registered nursing programs are actually set by, to follow government guidelines. So, for example, our course is based around Singapore Nursing Board requirements, and obviously pre-registration are based, in Australia, it's AHPRA, the registration authority, dictate what you should have in your programs. But yes, particularly in what we would consider to be like the third year courses, things like leadership and management, and we do have transition to professional practice courses. So stress in the workplace is often taught in that area, and managing stress, managing conflict, resilience, those kind of topics that are sort of taught in those areas. So I speak about stress and stress management and dealing with conflict in leadership and management. But when I showed the photograph of my team, Miss Lizzie Elder, she's just finished her PhD, so she's soon to be called, can't call her doctor yet, but she will be doctor very soon. Her research has been about workplace stress and resilience and coping. So she has been teaching that in relation to incorporating that into a lot of her teaching. So we have a course called Contemporary Nursing. So managing stress and workplace stress is there. So she's much more of an expert in it than I am, because she spent the last 4 years doing a doctorate in that area, particularly in some big joint projects across the world. So she would be the best person to speak about workplace stress and managing stress. But obviously everybody's stress at all levels has increased, as you can see from the increase in mental health cases as well.
Okay, thank you for your answers. And now we come into Professor Kemal. There are two questions for you. First one from Ibu Raihana. She wants to know about how to install public health characters to public health students. How to install public health characters to public health students.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Well, this is a good question. Yeah, okay. Yeah. First of all, actually, a good educational system not only provides the opportunity to the students to have hard skills, but also actually the soft skills. But the challenge, for instance, when we do teach the students about how to perform a good communications, it's only in terms of lecturers. Do we have enough give the opportunity to the students to really practice when they do or when they perform the communication, when they have interactions with the community, for instance. So this is one of the challenges that we have when we deliver our curriculum to the students, public health students in particular. Yes, we also have actually the opportunity to instill the public health characters to the students, which is the keywords is internship. Yes. Well, the challenge here is that it's very important actually to really design a good internship for the students. Yeah. So how we design when the students work with the community or work within public health institutions, do we have enough to design the tasks that the student has to perform? For instance, Actually, if we have a good internship program, we give the opportunity to the students to empathize, have an empathy when they have an interactions with the communities, to see or to deal with communities' needs. So this is the challenge for us that I would like to highlight, that we really, when we design the educational curriculum, do we have enough provide to the students the opportunity to practice their soft skills? That's first. And the second is, during the internship, do we really design the internship that we really could measure whether the students have the opportunity to practice their soft skills, so that the characters to be proactive students or proactive public health practitioners later, and also really caring to the people's needs, and also doing the social entrepreneurship. So I hope this give a kind of what is it? How we could cope with this challenge for our schools. Thank you.
Okay, Professor, do you mean the internship is similar with PBL?
No, PBL is maybe PBL 3 ya, maybe the third. But
yes,
this is the question is what I learned is the task that we give to the student is only to assess the situations in the public health institutions, and then more hard skills that they learn from this program. So the challenge is, do we really give the opportunity to the student to practice their soft skills, such as how they could communicate better with the clients? Do the students could get empathy when they work with the community? Yes. So
okay.
that's why this is what I could say is, this is really a challenge actually for the public health educations to really design the internship program.
Okay, thank you, Professor. The next one is from Bu Irma, Professor. From your opinion, does Indonesia still face the first wave COVID-19 or going to the second wave COVID-19, and what we should do to fight it?
Okay, yes. This is also a good question, yeah. So I would like to try to respond. Well, actually, we still in the first wave, yeah. From the national figures, it seems that there was indications of sloping in the month of August, especially in Jakarta. But then in the next months, in September, there was rapid increase again. So it's not consistent yet. We couldn't say that there is already decreasing in terms of the epidemic curve. Yeah. So although at the moment the number of new cases, daily new cases, is still increasing, but you see that Indonesia consists of different level of epidemic. It seems Jakarta now already shows an indication of sloping, yeah. But the governors continue to announce that Jakarta still under restrictions, yeah. So there is no relaxation yet. So this is our situation at the moment. So how we could cope with this? I think that we have to have a consistent behavior in terms of use mask, yeah, social distancing and hand washing, yeah. It seems to me that our behavior is not consistent yet. That's why the number of new cases is still fluctuated, yeah, in many areas in Indonesia. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Okay, the next one is from Fala. Why are some public health interventions successfully implemented and others not? As a team, we elaborated on the research question in keeping with the progressive focusing intent of realist synthesis. So my question is, what are the context, circumstances, and conditions within which different mechanisms produce different levels of success in implementing public health interventions?
Okay, so if we see the situation in Indonesia in general, actually many public health programs, their coverage is still below the targets. Yeah. So actually, if we could improve the coverage, what the challenge in the next is the quality. So why the intervention is in one area or in one time is success, but in others fail. So actually there are two major indicators, public health indicators, is the coverage and the quality. The coverage meaning that we have to put enough resources so that the program could cover the area needed. You know that because Indonesia is a large country, so coverage is very important to show the performance. But then when we cover a certain area, the challenge is whether we could provide a quality there. For instance, when we have covered an area for immunization program, but then the cold chains, the quality for cold chains is not there, then the immunization is not effective enough to really prevent the infectious disease. So I hope this could help to answer the questions.
Okay, coverage and quality in every area. Thank you, Professor. That is the last questions. Okay, we invite all speakers. Thank you for the grateful. We are grateful for the knowledge that has been shared with us. And we are already about 3 hours or more. and we are looking forward to having you in another opportunities. And thank you. Before we close this panel session, we invite all the participants to open your video because we are going to have a photo session. Please be prepared with beautiful and handsome faces. Don't forget to smile. Okay, 1, 2, 3. You still have time. Again, committee, please. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, is it enough?
Thank you, Bu Dewi.
Thank you, Professor Kemal, Professor Roberta.
Not yet, please.
Thank
Oh,
you.
madam. Okay, we have a certificate for you. Please show us the certificate. We have certificate for the invited speakers. For Professor Kenji Sugibayashi, arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you.
Professor Roberton, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been
And
really
then
good. Thank you.
Professor Kemal. Terima kasih, Bapak.
Terima kasih.
Please, the certificate. And Professor Barton and also for the Professor Kemal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Okay. I hope to see you in another opportunities, in another chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we also thank you to all ladies and gentlemen who attend and remain in this virtual loop until the end of plenary session. I apologize for any shortcoming in directing this event. I will close this plenary session and I will give the session to MC. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
See you.
We would like to thank all of the speakers, moderators, and participants for your attention and participation in this second plenary session. We hope the knowledge shared and discussion held will be of benefit in further developing the field of health. Participants, we would like to remind you that our next session after the break will be the concentrated discussion rooms, focusing on public health, nursing, and pharmacy. The links for each room will be shared through the Zoom chat and WhatsApp group. We expect all participants to be in their respective rooms by 12:50 p.m. GMT +7, as the moderators in each room will begin punctually.
Before we move on to the concentrated discussion rooms, I would like to first announce the moderators that will be in each room. In the first room about pharmacy, there will be Mrs. Ofa Susanti Beta, M.Sci. In the second room for nursing, there will be Mrs. Gini Priyasuti, SKP, MKAP, SPCOM. And last but not least, in the third room for public health, there will be Mr. M. Iqbal Nurmansyah, MCH.
Until then, we will have a break for 1 hour. Please use this time to relax and refresh your mind, so that by 1 p.m., you will be in prime condition. Please note that after today's concentrated discussion rooms end, participants are encouraged to join the closing ceremony in the main room. The link will be shared in the Zoom chat and WhatsApp group. Have a nice break.